$130,000 to $300,000 Bitcoin target. This has been the target for many months. And right now, Bitcoin, after this recent consolidation, is prepping its move to the range. I want to update on this chart, and I also want to zoom in on the daily chart to talk about short-term volatility, throwbacks, what to anticipate for support. Hit the subscribe and like on the way in, and let's just jump into this very clean-cut Bitcoin technical analysis. I want to start on this clip from 6 months ago. This is October 9th, 2024. Bitcoin at 61,000. Check it out. The right shoulder setting up. Maybe the right shoulder is set up. We're going to explode now. Maybe the right shoulder needs to fall more, and then we're going up. I don't know how it's going to play out, but never know how it's going to play out. We never know how it's going to play out. So if we go back to October, you can actually just see how it did play out. And this is what's this is fun for me to do as an analyst, is kind of go back and see how things like that played out, especially when we're tracking these longer term, patterns. So here's October 2024. The right shoulder was very close to being complete. And you can just see in November, we broke the neckline of the inverse head and shoulders. So I wanted to do an update on this pattern. I've been integrating it into videos. That is the throwback. We've been tracking that because it's been happening. But I wanted to do an update now because markets have reset. And a lot of market volatility, I think that we weren't even anticipating in this video back here in October 2024. A lot of market volatility has happened. And so now, as Bitcoin has shown how strong it's going to be with all of the volatility, the tariff fear that has most recently happened, the waiting game for Jerome Powell and rate cuts and all that stuff, S&P 500 has reset massively. And so as we're evaluating this chart now, and Bitcoin has bounced off of the neckline of the inverse head and shoulders, now it is time to start talking about the move to the range. The range and the upper end targets out of the inverse head and shoulders, there's kind of two. 130 on the lower end range, and that's really just kind of a measured price move, right? You have the bottom, you have the head right here of the inverse head and shoulders around 15,000, the neckline around 70,000 or so, 71,000. And it's just the price measured move. So breakout to the upside, right? It's around 130,000. If you take just a literal measured move of this, space here between the head and the neckline, the upper end of the move would be 300,000. People like to set these targets differently. I like to just have a range. I don't know where we're going to end up, but I think Bitcoin gravitating into this range for this cycle is so in play. You have people that have a $125,000 target, a $150,000 target, $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 target. So I think it's fair to say nobody knows what Bitcoin's going to do. But for me, I think there's going to be massive continuation of this cycle. You go to the Bitcoin daily chart, we can just get a quick glance of M2 global liquidity. We see it, with this uptrend happening, and we're kind of watching Bitcoin and crypto with a 108-day lag behind this chart has been a data point many people focused on. If Bitcoin and crypto follow this trend, you can very clearly see how, Bitcoin will be making its way into all-time highs and into that range target. But put that aside, there's going to be a lot of volatility along the way. There's going to be still people calling for a bear market, people that are just like, we're not going to see all-time highs for Bitcoin again. That's fine. But I want to talk about now, because I know a lot of people are just watching short-term price action on Bitcoin. I want to talk about what I'm watching, and there's two things. It's namely how the weekly candle will close this week. It is such a critical area on the macro. The 20-week moving average, 92,000. We were waiting for it in the 80s. We got there. We're actually above it right now. The weekly candle's above it, 4 days, 8 hours left. Now, how is the weekly candle going to close? That's a big question this week. We'll find out in the coming days. But besides that, the current move, let's talk about the current short-term move of Bitcoin right now on this daily chart. So the biggest thing is, all right, there's the 20-week moving average somewhere in here. Let's see if we can stay above it. But where's current resistance outside of that? If Bitcoin's going to keep kind of trying to trend up, what's resistance look like? And then we're going to talk about what the throwback looks like if we fail at resistance. How big of a dip could Bitcoin see? And it's quite large, even in the short term. Zoomed out, it doesn't look that bad. But if you're watching the short term and people that are kind of moved by emotional, the emotion of the markets, it could be kind of volatile. So here, to the upside, resistance, 101,000, 95,000. That's the range. It's a lower high from all-time high. So swing high, all-time high, to the swing low, crazy consolidation, the lower high Fibonacci. That is the current resistance area we want to see Bitcoin break through, right? And a similar type of price action we might see for Bitcoin could be kind of viewed back here, right? You can see it's breaking out and then it's choppy and then it's down, it's up. We could see Bitcoin interact with this Fibonacci in that manner. And that kind of leads us to the downside potential. So anywhere from where Bitcoin is right now to this range, right? And we're very close. $95,000 is not far. We might see Bitcoin make a little move to that area, into the range maybe. But we might get choppiness. So the choppiness that I'd be watching for, the 200-day is always going to be an area we want to see for support in this context. But more importantly for me is the 20-day and the 50-day. Right now, as we zoom in on the Bitcoin chart, you see the 20-day getting ready to cross above the 50. That move, for me, I'm always anticipating Bitcoin throwing back to those moving averages after that move occurs. That's just the way I do my analysis. We see it happen so often, and even so often on the flip side. When the 20 is falling below the 50, we wait for a move to pull back into these moving averages. These pullbacks happen, and similarly, these throwbacks happen. So I'm going to anticipate from right now up into this range, whether it's 95,000, maybe Bitcoin really starts pumping to 100,000. If we get rejected, I'm going to anticipate a throwback somewhere to these moving averages. At the end of the day, never know if it's going to happen. We also don't know if it's going to be the 50-day that it touches, if it's going to be the 20-day that it touches, and we don't know when. But as far as timeline goes, today, if this closed red and we just start falling, we could fall back into the 80s in the coming days. That's in play, right? Bitcoin actually just starting to fall down now. Maybe we go higher. These moving averages actually start trending higher, and then we're falling and trickling back down, and we're maybe hitting a 20-day moving average at 90,000, right? Maybe that's what the throwback will look like. I don't know. But that volatility is something from this moment forward on the short term, I will be constantly anticipating, all the while watching how Bitcoin interacts with the 20-week moving average this week, because there's 4 days, 8 hours, and there's a ton of importance there. Lastly, I want to make a note because this is something we've been tracking. We do have this breakout of this trend line on Bitcoin. So, historically, when we're getting that breakout, if you look back on this chart, historically, it leads to a very nice trend up, right? And even most recently, this breakout in September 2024, you can see just breaking out of that trend line. But even just notice, weeks following, there's a couple red candles in there, right? So there's volatility even there. There's the testing of the 20-week moving average. So we might be in a very similar environment where there's volatility. The 20-week moving average could look iffy at times, but that's why I'm watching it so closely. Ultimately, everybody, I'm zoomed out on all these Bitcoin charts. I think markets are going higher. That's just my thought. That's how I'm seeing these things. Prepared for otherwise, obviously. But I think markets are going higher, especially as the tariff uncertainties hopefully come to an end soon. And then QT, quantitative tightening, starts winding down soon as well. Liquidity just starts coming into these markets. Bitcoin going to all-time highs, in my opinion. And this is kind of just a macro and a short-term analysis combined. I wanted to kind of do that today. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Turn notifications on. And if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the content, please consider hitting that like button. That support means a ton to me. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.